Today we're going to be reviewing The Amazing Spider-Man number 45. We will be going through the entirety of the comic and I will be giving my thoughts and opinions on it, so if you enjoyed this video at any point, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and without further ado, let's jump right into this comic. One quick thing to point out that I've seen online that people have already pointed out is the fact that the Legacy issue didn't change from the previous one. Sure, the issue does change from 44 to 45, but the Legacy numbering stays the same at 938. Besides that slight weird error, the comic book is genuinely pretty decent. There have been videos in the past where I've said a comic book was decent or it was a must-read, like from the most recent event that happened. Immediately afterwards, the next issue really changes everything. Not for the better, it makes everything worse. So far, reading this one, it genuinely feels different. It feels like after 44 issues, they finally snapped into place and wanted characters to actually feel and play out the way they should. And I'll get a little bit more into it as I go along and review the comic. Characters definitely feel like their own individual characters. Previously, they didn't really feel like they were unique to one another. No one particularly acted or said anything that was specific to their characters. Everyone just felt flat, and somehow this comic definitely changes the formula. It makes it very obvious, especially the fact that they point out the past mistakes, or at least point out the weird shenanigans that have happened in the past, and elaborated more on it, and somehow made it make sense. Enough rambling though. Let's get into the comic. So our comic begins with Spider-Man breaking into Ravencroft, the Institute for the Criminally Insane, and it has quite a bit of fun interactions between a nurse and the residents of the Institute. Why are we in Ravencroft, you may be asking? Well, in Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 1 from 2023, at the very end of that comic, they had a very small portion where they told the story about Aunt Anna. For those of you that don't know, Aunt Anna is just MJ's aunt. In that small story annual, Aunt Anna went berserk and started attacking everyone at a party. It was explained she was attacking everyone because of this medication that Osborn decided it was okay to use that the X-Men came up with in Krakoa, and the medicine was supposed to help her dementia, although it was experimental. After going crazy, MJ, Paul, and Peter put her in Ravencroft to keep her from hurting herself and anyone else. Getting back into the comic, once the nurse leaves and leaves Aunt Anna by herself, Spider-Man reveals himself, and it's revealed he has the medication to reverse the crazy effects. So once Spider-Man injects her, she'll go back to being a regular person. Once Aunt Anna actually goes back to normal, Spider-Man tries breaking her out, and he explains to her that he has a very rich friend with some pretty good lawyers, expensive lawyers at that, and if they break her out that night, those lawyers will get put to work. Aunt Anna actually refuses to escape. She just wants to escape the normal way, and that's just by waiting her time out. That beginning portion to the comic is actually a pretty fun read. Like I said, characters actually feel individual to themselves, and we get a lot more elaboration on things. I don't want to spoil it too much, but there are also a few very fun characters that their nurse walks by at the Institute that she gets to interact with, and they got some pretty goofy characters. Afterwards, Peter has a meeting with Norman Osborn, and he explains the entire scenario to him. Norman then responds by saying he definitely owes Aunt Anna a favor for that. He then explains how he definitely saved a lot of time and money by her decision, especially over the fact that he is responsible for endorsing the medicine to begin with that turned her crazy. So even Norman himself is taking responsibility for the actions he's taken so far. In this meeting, Peter also definitely brings up the fact that he had Rick Rapp in his office that one time a few issues back, which for anyone that doesn't remember, Norman actually snapped at Peter and told him he doesn't want to get involved because that's just more money that he's just gonna have to spend, since his building did recently get hijacked by two villains, Dr. Octopus and Kraven. Ooh, one quick thing I completely forgot to point out between the interaction between Spider-Man and Aunt Anna earlier at the Ravencroft Institute. The moment Aunt Anna actually snapped into reality and became her normal self, she's still strapped in her confinement suit, and Spider-Man wants to break her out of it. What Spider-Man says to try to convince her is, Let me snap these restraints and get you out of here. This is the kind of stuff my spider strength is here for. And like I said earlier, when they point out the past mistakes and actually acknowledge them, especially with the fact that they play out the character how he should by doing so, that is crazy. What I'm referring to is within the first 5 issues of this Amazing Spider-Man comic run from 2022, a very infamous moment happened when Spider-Man was handcuffed with quote-unquote titanium handcuffs. And normally you'd think to yourself, oh, Spider-Man definitely has the strength to be able to break out of those. Nah, my man's struggle. And then he got beaten afterwards for no reason? Come on, this part in this comic was definitely alluding to that. After Peter and Osborn's meeting, we get a glimpse at a different section of the Osborn building. And it's inside one of the labs, where we get introduced to Curt Connors for the first time in this comic run. This is where we get revealed that the living brain from issue 6 of this specific comic run, the advanced thinking computer, is being held at one of these labs. But the brain is powered off because the way Curt Connors explains it is that it's not allowed to think. Nothing more really gets elaborated beyond that, but it's definitely a very good starter to a good storyline. Then Spider-Man and Jackpot, which is MJ, Jackpot is her superhero name currently at the moment, they both meet outside of the Ravencroft Institute. They both meet up so that they can actually get Aunt Anna out the normal way. And they have a very awkward moment where they both realize that they have to change into their civilian clothes. And so they both start awkwardly changing in front of each other. Once inside the Institute, we do get a little bit more fun interactions with various just villains that are inside the Institute. One fun interaction is when Peter Parker notices the Sandman, and he walks up to him to talk to him. This is where we actually get a pretty fun current representation of how the Sandman is played out. It gives us quite a bit to actually deconstruct, which is a good portion of the fun in these comics. So the current status of the Sandman is he is a patient at the Ravencroft Institute. He has an inhibitor on so that he doesn't sand out. His current name is William Baker, who Peter addresses him as, and he actually responds pleasantly, saying that he likes being acknowledged that way, telling him that he can't get people to stop calling him Flint Marko or Sandman. We get a decently fun conversation between both Peter and William Baker. We even get acknowledged that in Sandman's past, he has just been a beach. For those of you that played Spider-Man 2 on the PS5, you've sort of somewhat have a feeling of what that's like. Especially over the fact that throughout that entire game, after Sandman gets captured, all of the sand that was a part of him just gets left behind and is a beach. Anyways, getting back into the character deconstructing of the current Sandman. The story plays it out as the Sandman has 3 different personalities in his head. You got Flint Marko, you got the Sandman, which is the villain side, and then you get his current status, which is William Baker. They allude to the fact that Sandman has formed with various different sands over the ages, which have been the source of his various personalities. So as developing this current Sandman character goes, I freaking love it. During the conversation between both of these characters, Peter brings up Spider-Man, and then the Sandman personality takes over, and you get to see everything turn red. This character is no longer William Baker. This guy is Sandman. He is like ready to do chaos. The Sandman breaks out in his sand form and he's wanting to just cause destruction. But the inhibitor actually prevents him from doing so. And he quickly snaps back to William Baker personality, where he apologizes and acknowledges that that was his Flint Marko side. Before Peter leaves, William Baker grabs Peter by the wrist to prevent him from walking out. And he tries pleading with Peter, telling him that he saw how angry that thing inside him was. And he wants to escape to do bad things. William Baker wants Peter to let Spider-Man know that he's not the only one that wants him to break out. They want him out too. Who's they? Well, upon Peter telling Spider-Man, Spider-Man should know who they are. And they are the Sinister Six. We're left on a to be continued, ladies and gentlemen. So, what do we think about the comic? Thoughts, comments, and concerns? Easily, highly recommendable. Probably the most recommendable ASM comic in this entire 2022 run. I've already stated some of the reasons why I genuinely enjoyed this one at the very beginning of this video. Previously, though, I got so so used to these comics being so flat, specifically the ASM ones. By flat, I mean like characters really don't feel unique from each other, nothing really matters, things just sort of happen, but they don't have consequences. You name it. This comic run had so many issues, but this one was genuine fun to read. All the previous 44 issues, like I said, they felt very flat, nothing mattered, but this one was definitely a pleasant read. Not to mention the artists that worked on this comic. Every panel was an enjoyment. I've had all previous 44 issues just held to the same bottom tier standards when it came to just the way they normalized the storytelling and ASM. So when I reviewed the comics, it was always by those bottom level standards. If I said something was fun or a blast to read, it was just by those bottom tier standards. I know definitely well there's other comics coming out right now that are so much more fun to read and the characters are well more developed. But my reviews were definitely being held to bottom of the barrel. Let's say for a good visual, they were at level 1. With this comic, they've leveled up their storytelling to level 2 standards. Now, whatever comes after this, they either hold up this level of quality or they disappoint and they could drop back to level 1, which in that case, all in all is just quite disappointing. But if they hold up to this level of quality, I genuinely can't wait to actually read what they will do with the Ben Reilly character, since they're bringing my boy Chasm back in a few issues into the future. Overall, very nice change of pace, and I can't wait to actually read the next issue. And I leave you with that today, ladies and gentlemen. If you enjoyed this video at any point, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.